Zhang Zhiwei is President and Chief Economist at Pinpoint Asset Management in Hong Kong.
Part of that strong growth is really coming from export sector, right? So the external demand seems to be quite strong, which has been driving China's economy, so far this year. And this Caixin PMI, particularly if you look at the sample, the type of firms that they survey tend to be more private enterprises that are located more along the coastal lines of China and more export oriented. So I think a big part of that is export driven.
You talk about it being private enterprises, but this survey really does zone in on small and medium-sized firms. Do you think those are the real engines of economic growth, or just a small part of a bigger puzzle?
I would say it is a very important part of the economy, probably the most dynamic with the best potential. Throughout the past 20, 30 years, that's really the most productive part of the economy. And, they have been doing quite well, moving up the value chain and, also delivering jobs in an economy where, unemployment rate is still relatively high. So I think this is a very important part of the economy, although as, the share of the GDP that comes from that part of the economy is not dominant yet.
You mentioned jobs. I'd like to pick up on that. What about jobs in the manufacturing sector? I mean, that reading was quite low. What's the outlook there?
I think it's gradually improving. I think part of that is because some of the sectors that are related to the property sector is not doing that well because the property sector slowdown, has been going on for quite some time, and many of these developers are still in trouble. And the situation there is just I would say at the very beginning of stabilization, right? So property demand is not strong, then a lot of the related sectors are not really recruiting people, including steel, cement, all these kind of suppliers to the property sector. So that's probably where we need to do more to stabilize things and start to generate jobs.
Well, all of this is taking place against a pretty volatile outlook for global trade. Where do you see the opportunities for Chinese manufacturers in the short to medium term?
I would say in the longer term, medium term. I think the exporters still have a lot of potentials. I think they are really quite competitive, and they are, climbing up the value chains. You can see particular cases in many of the emerging markets that they are building up production bases, Vietnam, Mexico, and so on. So I do think they have a lot of potential to be developed. In the short term, you're right. I think the export orders can be volatile, and we already started to see some signs of slowdown in some of the economies, including U.S. So the exporters, I think they do need to be aware of the potential risk of slower external demand in the coming months.